Grade 4 pupils, welcome for Social Studies, Grade 4. Our topic for today is going to be culture and social organization, whereby we're going to talk of the aspects of traditional culture. Aspects of traditional culture. Aspects means the things people do in their way of life, e.g., or for example, the clothes they put on, games they play or the sports they play, items they use, and many more others. There are so many others or many other aspects of traditional culture, but before we proceed, we need to know the meaning of the term culture. So the term culture, here we are referring to a way of life of people in a community. A way of life of people in a community. So culture is a way of life of people in a community. That is the way people live in a community. For example, in the past, people showed their way of life in different ways. Number one, the type of food they ate, the way they dressed, the houses they built, the tools they used, and many more others. So these are just examples of the ways in which people lived, the way in which people lived there before or in the past. That is in the beginning, whereby so many things were not provided or were not available like the way we are living in this modern world. Now, we need to understand that different communities have different cultures. So each community has its own culture or the way of their living in their community. So we're going to look at the activities that were practiced by different communities in the past. The activities that were practiced by different communities in the past. We're going to start with the ceremonies. Different communities had different ceremonies. They also had their own way of doing those activities. For example, during marriage and funeral ceremonies, initiations, childbirth, and many others. All these were done differently from one community to the other. The type of food that were used by these people, the foods eaten were different from one community to the other. So some foods were eaten raw while others were cooked. And this also was different. It was also different depending on which community you come from. When you ask your parents, they can also be in a position to tell you how they lived in the past. Then we come to the third one, which is houses built. Here we are talking of how communities lived and how their houses look like. So houses were also different from one community to the other. Some houses were big while others were so small, like those of the Maasai people, which were called Manyatta. So the small houses that Maasai people lived in, and even up to today, they are still using the same houses. They still live in the same houses. They are so small. So the Maasai people are still holding on their culture and their traditional way of living, compared to other communities that have changed from traditional and African way of life into Western life, or they have copied the Western people. When you talk of the Western people, we are talking of the Europeans. Then let's talk of the tools used. In the past, communities used different types of tools. For example, those tools used in farming, cooking, Weapons for domestic use and for security were also different. Some tools were like knives and swords, which were made from stones and wood. Different communities did not by then we had no shops, no markets selling modern tools. So the people in the past went on to start making their own tools from different materials. Some were made from stones, some were made from wood carvings, others were made from metals or irons. Then we have games and sports. So different communities also performed different sports. Some sports were only meant for specific gender. That is, a boy could not be allowed to participate in any sport that is not for boys, and also girls were only strictly participating in those games and sports that were only meant for girls. So there were specific sports for specific gender. So that is, boys' sports were different from girls' sports. Even up to now, we have some communities that are still holding it up to that if you are a girl, you're not supposed to participate in such or different sports. For example, when it comes to football, girls from some communities are not allowed to participate in football games. Only boys are supposed to do so. Then duty allocation. When you talk of duty allocation, we are talking of the way parents or our elders used to give work to do to different children in terms of gender. So we had a specific work that was only allocated to a specific group of girls or boys. So we had work that was supposed to be done by only boys, and also the one that was only specific for girls. So boys and girls were given different duties to do, like washing utensils, house cleaning, cooking were for girls. That is, for girls, they were given to wash utensils. They are also participating and also taking part in house cleaning, cooking, and also taking care of the young ones or the babies back at home when the parents and other people were busy working somewhere else or taking part in other different activities. Then when it comes to boys, they were given hunting, herding cattle, providing security to the community. This was given to boys. So all boys, you are supposed to guard, to provide security to the community. Then clothes, when it comes to clothes, they wore the clothes that they used to put on. Some communities wore clothes made from animal skins. Some only wore clothes that were made from animal skins. Then we move on to now what we have learned. What we have learned from our lesson for today. Number one, we have learned that culture is the way of life of people in a community. Culture is the way of life of people in a community. So you can say that people had different ways of life in the past. That is number two. People had different ways of life in the past. They also expressed their cultures in different ways, like clothes they wore. We have looked at that. The foods they ate. We have also looked at houses they lived in, tools and equipment they used, games and sports they played for entertainment. Then also, last but not least, we have looked at the ceremonies they held to mark major events in their lives. So, pupils, up to that point, I want to believe that you at least you have learned something from the topic traditional culture. Now, we come to our assignment for today. I know you may be having questions somewhere wherever you are. I know you like talking. I can see Sumaya. I can see Abdullah is like, teacher, I have a question I want to deliver to you. For any questions, you are free to ask me through my number that I'm going to give at the end of the lesson. But for now, let us try to work out the following questions. I just want you to copy. First, I want you to copy the above notes in your exercise books, the notes that we've gone through from the beginning up to the end. You make sure you copy all the notes without skipping, and make sure you're using the correct spellings, and you copy your work neatly. It should be a neat work. Then after that, after copying the notes, you're going to do the following. From your Mentor Social Studies textbook, you're going to check on page 59 and read the story, after which you will have to answer questions 1 to 4 on page 60. Read the story on page 59 from your Mentor Social Studies textbook. Then answer the questions 1 to 4. The questions are found on page 60. From Our Lives Today Social Studies, the story is on page 60, and the questions are 1 to 5 on page 61. The story is on page 60, and the questions are on page 61. Questions 1 to 5, that is in the book Our Lives Today Social Studies, book 4. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching at the same time. I want to wish you all the best, and may God bless you as you take part in this lesson, and also writing and answering the questions that I've given unto you. Until next time, when we meet again, I want to say thank you so much, and may God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.